With over 16 different types of 12 gauge to choose from, choosing the right one can be an absolute living nightmare. So today we're going to be testing them up against armor and also some helmets so you can choose the right one for you. So we're not actually going to be testing all of the ammos here today. We're going to be starting off with normal Buckshot, Express, then Magnum, Rip Slug, Dual Sabot, 50 BMG Slug, Flechette, and then last but not least, the almighty AP20. As always, guys, we're actually going to be doing armor testing with the standard methodology, starting off with the Coraza and working our way up to a slick plate carrier. We're also going to be doing visor testing at the end with level 3 visors up to level 6. Starting off us here today, we're going to be jumping straight into leg meta. With one of the most common rounds in the game, we're going to be looking at 7mm Buckshot. So that's going to be 2 shots to the same leg, but understand this is a perfect world situation where every single pellet within the slug actually hits the same leg. So when we see something like Express Buckshot, we actually have to make the conscious decision between these two and understand that something like Express Buckshot and Magnum Buckshot are actually better because of the amount of damage they do overall, and how many pellets there are makes it easier to hit a moving target's legs. But when you look at all the high flesh rounds, it's pretty much going to be much of the sameness. Now let's jump into some armor testing here because that's what you guys came here for today. We're actually going to start off with something a little bit weird, which is Express Buckshot. With 9 pellets doing 35 damage each with 3 pen, we should see the perfect example here of what happens when you get hit with multiple blunt damage projectiles. Now let's have a look at what this does to the armor and how this actually affects different levels of armor. So that was a 5 hits for a Coraza, which is not great. How about a Trooper?
You fixed to cooperate?
8 shots for a Trooper. Let's put it up against a Killer Armor. And although some of you might be confused on why Killer Armor took 1 less shot, I'll explain why after we test Slick Plate Carrier. The reason I decided to include this test with Express Buckshot up against armor is I really wanted to have a conversation with you guys super quickly about nominal durability. When these little pellets hit the armor, each one is usually doing about 1 to 2 points, just slightly over 1 point of armor damage. So a nominally higher max durability like the Trooper armor will actually stop more than something like a Killer armor at 60 max durability. When you see the slick plate stop more, it's not because it's level 6, it's because it's actually a nominally higher max durability. But when we look at something like Dual Sabot, we got to understand that there are actually 2 projectiles within this Sabot round. And at the same time, it comes in at 17 pen. So every shot is equivalent to 85 damage. And we're going to be noticing that when we shoot someone, they're actually accounting for 2 hits here. So 4 shots on a Coraza is actually 8. So that was 8 shots up against a Trooper. How about a Killer Armor? But we'll just quickly jump into the Slick here. The reason that I included Sabot is I really wanted to debunk this round as actually being a decent worthwhile. A lot of people in my chat were actually harassing me to test this one for this video, but I didn't want to do it because of how bad it is. They think because there's 2 projectiles that it's going to do a good job anyway. But when we see these results here today, we shot that in the ground. My recommendations is to not use this round if you are trying to use a 12 gauge shotgun. So let's step it up one more to another suggestion. I got asked, they said, Vox, why don't you consider 50 BMG? With 196 damage and 26 pen, it should be considerable. 3 shots on a Coraza. Now, we tested this a few times because I wasn't actually 100% happy with the results here. So we went back and we actually found an average of pretty much 8 to 10 shots on level 6 and 6 to 7 on a level 5 armor. And in a perfect world situation, that is not okay. Neither of these rounds are worth recommending here today, so I'd actually avoid them at all costs. So let's step it up to something that I would legitimately recommend. With 8 very scary darts doing 25 damage each and also 31 pen, Flechette is the Armored Destroyer. Let's see what it does up against Karasa. Yes, you saw that correctly, ladies and gentlemen. That is a one-shot to Karasa. How about a Trooper? 2 shots for a Trooper. And how about a Killer Armor? Three shots on Killer. Last but not least, Slick Plate Carrier. All right, so let's have a quick look at the durabilities of each of these armors, and you're going to start to understand one thing. It actually went straight through the Trooper armor on the second hit. The first hit doing enough to reduce it almost half. But when we look at something like the Karasa, it actually passed straight through on the first hit, so it'll be around 50 durability, telling me that it just went straight through. But when we look at something like the Killer Armor or the Slick Plate Carrier, that's where things get interesting. You're going to notice that the durability is so low on both of these, meaning that it actually basically just destroyed the armor till it was worthless. And that's the beauty of Flechette. But understand, once again, I have to make it clear that this is a perfect world scenario, and Flechette has a spread of all 8 darts. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the video. But for now, look at how much better it is up against something like 50 BMG Slug, which is actually quite interesting because in real life, BMG should be the king here. But let's have a look at AP20. An armor-piercing slug with 164 damage should be enough to one-shot any thorax with a chance of pushing level 3 and almost level 4 armor. That is a one-tap to a Karasa, and how about a Trooper armor? So we actually rolled quite unlucky here, but it is possible to one-tap a Trooper armor in some of the testing we did. Same with the Killer Armor here, 4 shots, and how about a Slick?
Incredible.
So we actually had to do this a few more times because I wasn't happy with the results. So we worked out an average once again. We actually got quite lucky on it passing through the Trooper here. Once again, guys, if you have any questions about any of the armor testing or you want to see a video in future, feel free to swing by the Twitch. I stream 5 days a week. The link will be featured down below. But once again, guys, when you look at the durability, you can actually read what is happening with these rounds. The Killer Armor actually let it through, whereas something like the Slick Plate Carrier was beaten down till it was almost 0. So we actually worked out the mean averages here, showing that Flechette is actually better when you're hitting all of the darts on most of the armors due to its armor damage percentage, which you can find in the ammo chart, which I'll attach down below. But how about some visor testing here today, starting off with AP20. You're going to see it just zip straight through level 3. Straight through level 4. And up against an Alton.
Nice work, bitch.
4 shots for an Alton, and now for the Mashka. So what you're going to be seeing there, guys, is quite interesting. And when you look at the durabilities, you're going to notice that most of them will be close to 0'd. But when we look at Flechette, once again with 32 pen, this is where things get really interesting. That insane amount of armor damage actually equates to a more reliable penetration on helmets across the board. That is because it has so many darts hitting the same hitbox at the same time that the durability of even the Mashka was pushed down to 0 almost by the second shot. But if you compare something like Magnum Buckshot and Express Buckshot, which are the 2 leg meta rounds here that I would recommend, there are actually a few differences you need to understand. The first one is obviously Express Buckshot is moving a lot quicker, and Magnum Buckshot is actually less accurate here with -15 compared to Express's 15% extra accuracy. With 115 recoil, these are decisions you have to make. Although Magnum Buckshot has more damage, Express is moving faster and more accurately with an extra projectile. So when we shoot it up against a wall, we can actually see some really interesting results on how that equates to a real life experience. Now obviously I'm shooting Express here at a bit of an insane distance. This is what I would say is roughly about 75 meters here, just for research reasons. This next round here is going to be Magnum Buckshot, and the first thing you're going to be noticing is that recoil is a lot more. You're going to be seeing a lot more of the suppressor in the air between each shot, showing me that insane extra bit of 115 extra recoil. So when we look at the two, we're going to be noticing that Express on the left here is going to be slightly tighter and also higher up on the wall, even though I was aiming at the same exact position, showing me that speed actually made most of them drop all slightly lower on the Magnum on the right hand side. This is meaning that if you are doing any sort of 50-meter engagements, Express is probably a better option. Now once again, when we look at the difference between Flechette and AP20, these are your two armor penetrative choices, but there are two massive differences between these. Flechette is an 8-dart round here, coming in with negative 25% accuracy, whereas AP20 is moving a lot quicker here at 510 meters per second with 125% extra accuracy. Although it adds recoil, AP20 is moving incredibly quickly. But when you fire Flechette up against a wall here, this is about 15 meters, you're already starting to see that the rounds are spreading further than the head hitbox. So anything over 20 meters is not favorable for Flechette unless you're spamming rounds. So this is about 150 meters for AP20, and I'm firing up against the wall just to show how good the MOA is, especially inside an MP153. But when we run up to the wall, just take a quick look at that spread. That is from almost 150 meters away with a slug with barely less than a foot drop, which is insane. So once again, guys, what do you think your favorite round for the shotgun is? Let me know in the comments down below. Did you agree with anything I said in this video, or do you have some different thoughts? Once again, if you enjoyed the video and in any way, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me out heaps. And as always, guys, we'll see you on the next one.